It's one of the most dreaded parts of the year in Hampton Roads, winter. It only takes a couple inches of snow to shut the area down. So are you ready? From cold temperatures to roads covered in snow, we have you covered. With how storms form, how communities get ready, how you should get ready, and the big prediction for the season ahead. From the team on your side, this is Weathering Winter.
Hi everyone, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jeff Edmondson. Welcome to Weathering Winter. As you know, we don't get a lot of snow around here, but it can still happen. And as we've seen already this season, it does get cold. During this special, we'll cover how these systems develop and how that can change what falls from the sky. We'll also show you how Virginia and North Carolina can have vastly different results from winter weather systems. Plus, how can you prepare for bad weather now so you'll be ready all season long? And I'll give you an idea on what the team is thinking for this upcoming season and how we came to that prediction. Let's get started with how a winter storm develops in Hampton Roads. To say it's complicated is an understatement. One part of that is the type of storm that moves our way.
Hello everybody, I'm meteorologist Jeremy Wheeler, and I'm talking about weather patterns, particularly weather patterns that produce snow in the eastern United States and also for our region. Now, years ago, 1940s, there was a researcher, J.E. Miller. He produced two main types, but we're going to expand on that and produce some more. A lot of this information is from the National Weather Service in Wakefield. I saw a presentation years ago. So here's the surface map. We got two lows at the surface. You've got the jet streams overhead. The polar jet is the colder one to the north, the subtropical jet to the south. Those are those fast-moving rivers of air. It controls those areas of low pressure and where they go. And so what happens is the polar jet takes a big dip, injects a lot of energy into the lows as they merge, produces a big superstorm offshore. And you can see that big band of snow. They move to the northeast as a nor'easter. December 2010, we had over a foot of snow from a system like this, and Ash Wednesday 1962 also. This is a Miller Type B. So this one, you've got that cold air getting pushed to the south from this area high pressure, the way it's set up. So now this low, the one that's to the north, can actually run into that and produce band of snow from east to west. And then those two lows can merge. You'll get some moisture on the backside of it. February 2010, there was over 2 feet of snow in Maryland and D.C. from a system just like this one. And again, it's from that cold air getting surged to the south. Now, Type C, we have less of that. The high kind of runs along with the low. So in this case now, there's still a band of snow from that low to the north, but there's also that mix zone that forms in there, and that affects our region sometimes. We might get less snow out of it, but there's still a band of snow to the north of us, and that's Type C. Type D, we call this a fast mover. We're watching that area low pressure to the south, runs along the coast. The subtropical jet forces that east quickly. You get a thin band of snow in here. Sometimes we can get in that quick band as it moves off to the east. Doesn't really blow up the low, the surface low. It's not super strong, but you can get moisture on the backside for a little bit. February 1989, Norfolk had 15.4 inches from a system like that. That's the fast mover. And finally, the coastal runner. We're watching that low to the south again, but this time you got a lot more energy in the system, and so it moves to the east. When it reaches the coast, it can start to blow up quite a bit. You can see that big band of snow already forming, and then the two lows may even merge and produce a monster nor'easter as it moves to the northeast. Now this produces a very large band of snow from south to northeast. 1958, there was one offshore that hit us pretty hard, but 1993, there was one near the coast. That was a superstorm in March, and look at all that band of snow that was out there, all the way from the deep south to the northeast. We didn't get as much snow here, but we did get some. Those are the different weather patterns. I'm meteorologist Jeremy Wheeler.
The next trick for predicting winter weather events here in our area can sometimes depend on where you are. Virginia and North Carolina have a vast array of climates from the coast to the mountains. Meteorologist Brian Michigan shows us how your winter weather is all about location, location, location.
Winter in Hampton Roads can be a hectic time of year. One day the sun's shining and it feels more like early spring. The next, we're dealing with an Arctic chill or an icy mess. But depending on where you live across the region, winter can look very different. And it all starts with the Atlantic Ocean, which is often known as the Great Moderator. It is responsible for keeping our coastline milder during the winter season compared to inland areas. This is because water holds on to heat longer than the land. Because of that, You are more likely to experience a cold rain in places like Cape Hatteras or the oceanfront, while Franklin or Suffolk have a higher chance of getting snow. But it's not always that simple. There are other factors involved since the weather in our region is just so dynamic. One reason is we are located so far south in latitude that we are prone to shifts in the jet stream. Think of the jet stream as a river blowing west to east. It can steer large low pressure systems across the country and can lead to big time temperature shifts. This means we're in a constant battle between warmer air pushing up from the south and colder air driving in from the north. On top of all of that, being close to major bodies of water allow for a multitude of microclimates around the region where just a slight change in our wind direction can turn a snowy forecast to, well, mainly a rainy one. We can see how our proximity to the water influences our weather when looking at the numbers. The average high temperature at the Norfolk International Airport during the coldest point in the winter season is about 50 degrees, with an average low of 33. Meanwhile, 150 miles west away from the water, Farmville, that average high is around 47 degrees, with an average low of 25, which is well below freezing. Over the course of the winter, there's a much higher likelihood that whenever we see precipitation, it will fall in the form of a rain or wintry mix. In Virginia Beach, the probability that precipitation will fall as snow is under 3%. Meanwhile, as you head west and away from those major bodies of water, that probability of experiencing snow more than doubles. These factors don't necessarily mean that big snowfalls can't happen. In fact, there are many scenarios where storms can bring several inches of snow into places that don't usually see it. Take February 2025, for example. Just last year, on February 19th, a strong high-pressure system built into our north, allowing for cold Arctic air to spill south. At the same time, a powerful coastal system tracked to our south and off the coast. Due to this high-pressure system already in place, that blocking allowed for moisture to move in without the impact of milder air. With the cold air in place and precipitation falling, we were able to see snowfall add up to over a foot in some areas of Hampton Roads, including the oceanfront of Virginia Beach. As we take on this winter season, it's important to remember that whether you live just steps from the Atlantic Ocean or closer to the I-95 corridor, winter can bring very different types of challenges. But the one thing that connects us all is that no two storms are ever the same. I'm meteorologist Brian Michigan. 10 on your side.
Our thanks to Brian for that information. Now, if you've lived around here for just a few years, you know we can get a big snow event. Several small ones or none at all. Over the decades, we've seen huge snowfalls like the Circus Blizzard in 1980 and another one around Christmas of 2010. Now, others were smaller and more numerous like in 2014. Our Chief Meteorologist Emeritus, Don Slater, has a look at how winter storms can have a mind of their own and the effects on your everyday life.
Snow forecasting is one of the most difficult things that we do when we have other big weather systems. And yeah, they're complex and everything, but we can see them coming for thousands of miles, hundreds and thousands of miles. Snow forecasting, though, is infinitely more subtle, especially in terms of horizontally what we've got going on in terms of temperature and vertically what we have going on in terms of temperature. We've got all kinds of things going on in terms of the horizontal temperature, and this is all toward keeping in mind public convenience and public safety. What's it going to be? What are the roads going to be like? Is there going to be snow on the cars or on the grass? That kind of thing. But in the vertical, we also have to know what's going on because if it's just cold air above and rain begins as snow, even in the summertime, and then it melts all the way to the ground, well, it's well above freezing, so no problem. We get some rainfall out of it. Then we start getting into these smaller areas where it starts out as cold air, then it melts, but then the ground temperature is really, really cold. It's around 28, 32 degrees. That's freezing rain. We really don't like that. Sleet is a tough one as well in terms of driving. Cold air, it melts, but then it refreezes into these little ice pellets. And these little ice pellets can get stuck on the road and freeze onto the road, and you end up with a driving difficulty with that as well. And then, of course, you end up with cold air all the way to the ground. and that is snow. Well, we want to watch out what goes on with that in terms of snowfall and precipitation types. Here's what goes on with that freezing rain. Of course, starts out at rain. We have this area of freezing rain and some sleet going on. That can really create some driving problems into some smaller areas, or if it gets stuck over the top of you, you really want to watch out for it. But let's say that we've got all snow for the area. What are we going to do with all of that? Big snow, well, that's not a big problem, really, because even if we're way off, there's going to be a total shutdown anyway. And if there's a shutdown anticipated with 3 to 6 inches of snow, and if we're off by 1 or 2 inches, we're still pretty much shut down. 1 inch to 2 inches, troublesome, and we get shut down. We get a short shutdown. But the smaller ones, if we're off by half or an inch, we can end up with a shutdown, and we don't expect that. So that's one that we really want to watch out for. So again, snow forecasting, but really difficult, and really depends on the last 12 to 24 hours. So stay tuned on any snow forecast.
Thanks, Don. We've looked at how winter weather can be tricky to predict, but it still happens and you need to be ready. Plus, we'll have some fun with the snow. Still ahead, did you know that there are different types of snowflakes that can pay us a visit? It's true, and we'll show you how that happens. Plus, you're not the only one who needs to be ready. We're headed out with the snowplow crew to see what they do to keep you safe, all as Weathering Winter continues. Welcome back. There's a saying that no two snowflakes are alike. That's very true, but did you know that there are actually different types of snowflakes? But how do they form? We have to go inside the clouds for that answer. Come with me. Now, there's several different types of snowflakes that we can look at. It's kind of fun because it all depends on what's happening inside the cloud. 5 different types of flakes: thin plates, needles, hollow columns, stellar plates, and my favorite are the dendrites. But we have to look inside the cloud. What is that temperature at which these snowflakes form? As the temperatures get colder, we start to see the flakes change. Thin plates at first. The ice needles form at around 21 to 25 degrees. Hollow columns are after that as the air gets a little colder inside the cloud, remember, not at the ground, inside the cloud. Stellar plates and then dendrites, those form when it's around 3 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperatures can change just a little bit in the cloud, and that can change the type of flake that appears. So the stellar plates can reappear, or as it gets even colder, hollow columns and eventually even ice needles as temperatures are below 8 degrees. It can be really strange inside what happens with the clouds, but it's always fun. So look for that next time it snows. Now, regardless of what kind of snow heads our way, someone needs to clean it up. And that's thanks to the road crews that work long hours, day and night, to make sure the streets are safe. Meteorologist Chrissy Stewart gets a look at how that all happens.
When winter weather strikes Hampton roads, it's important our roadways remain clear. Norfolk's Public Works Division of Streets and Bridges makes sure that happens. With 800 tons of salt stored and 24 plows in their current fleet, the city of Norfolk is well equipped for any winter weather headed our way this season. While preparation for a specific event begins as soon as snow or ice is mentioned in the forecast, preparation for the winter season as a whole begins well in advance.
So the wheels are always turning, because even though it may be summer, fall is around the corner, you have to start prepping. So even if we're in hurricane season, we know that we need to start prepping for snow and ice very soon. It's never off our brains.
The city makes action plans, evaluates routes, takes inventory, does maintenance on the fleet, and assesses what worked last year and what needs improvement. The operational crews go through a week-long training in early October. Throughout this week, they go over schedules, videos, bookwork, and take assessments. They're also assigned their trucks and routes for the season. For a couple days, they drive the plows in an empty parking lot with traffic cones set up as an obstacle course. Then they hit the streets with their plows and familiarize themselves with their routes, learning any potential tricky spots to maneuver around. Because Norfolk is an older city and many neighborhood streets are narrow, the city focuses on plowing primary and secondary roads.
We have 408 miles for our primary routes total and 195 miles for our secondary routes. So you can imagine that is a lot to cover.
When a winter event is in the forecast, the city prepares for the worst and hopes for the best. Salting and brining operations begin 24 to 48 hours in advance of a storm. Then crews work in 12-hour shifts around the clock until all routes meet standard conditions.
And we have to put our crews out on the streets to clear our primary and secondary routes. The goal is to make the city drivable and functionable for our residents and also our first responders. There are some people who don't get snow days, they still have to report to work. And it's not just fire and rescue. We have people who have to go to hospitals, they work in grocery stores, etc. So that is really the goal. We don't want the city just shut down, buried under snow, and let's wait for it to melt. No, the goal is to make sure that people can get out safely and go about their lives.
At Norfolk's Public Works Division of Streets and Bridges, meteorologist Christy Stewart, 10 on your side.
Thanks, Christy. Communities do their part to make sure the roads are safe, but travel issues still come up a lot when it comes to the winter season. Meteorologist Brian Michigan is back with a look at the impact Old Man Winter can make on your trip.
Winter weather in our area may be rare, but when it does arrive, it can create a major headache to those traveling across town or across the country. Here in Hampton Roads, we are home to many interstates, bridges, and tunnels. These routes can be impacted by anything from a light coating of snow to freezing rain. This is because our region is located in a very dynamic part of the world where temperature swings can bring about all different kinds of winter weather. During the winter, roughly 500,000 crashes happen each year due to icy pavement. This is because during a winter storm, elevated roads and bridges are often the first to freeze. This is because they are surrounded by cold air on all sides. To stay safe, it's important to slow down and increase the distance between you and the car in front of you. Next, avoid sudden movements like hard braking or sharp turns. These can cause your tires to lose traction. Finally, minimize distractions. Being on your phone while driving is never a good idea in the first place, especially during winter weather when road conditions can change at a moment's notice. Next, let's talk about flight delays, which are quite common this time of year. These delays can be caused not just by local weather conditions, but by storm systems happening across the country. The best advice for travelers: check the status of your flight early and often, and pack accordingly in case of long layovers. Additionally, it may be a good idea to include flight insurance with your trip in case of any extended delays or cancellations due to weather. The winter season can be a very difficult time of year for travel, especially across Hampton Roads, but it's always best to stay informed on how you can be traveling safely, whether you're on the road or in the air, to save yourself time, money, and stress. I'm meteorologist Brian Michigan, 10 on your side.
And coming up on Weathering Winter, from your car to your home, there are safe ways to stay warm. What the experts say about turning up the heat after the break. And it's not the easiest forecast I have to make, but the challenge is accepted. The winter season outlook and what could play a factor into whether we get a lot of snow or a little snow or nothing at all. Once again, welcome back. One thing you can be sure of with winter in Hampton Roads, we will still have some cold snaps. That means turning up the thermostat to keep warm. But you have to do that safely. Meteorologist Christy Stewart is back with some expert opinion on how to do that.
Half of all fires happen in the winter. It's important to be fire smart as you stay warm this season. Many of us keep warm with space heaters and fireplaces, but heating equipment is responsible for 1 in 6 home fires. These fires are oftentimes caused by people having flammable items too close and forgetting to unplug heaters when not in use. Always keep a 3-foot radius around any heat source clear of anything that can burn. This includes bedding and walls. Make sure you plug heat sources directly into their own wall outlet, not an extension cord, and always remember to unplug them when they're not in use. Another item often forgotten about is candles. Make sure your candles get blown out when you leave the room or before falling asleep, and keep them at least a foot away from flammable materials. To be on the safe side, use battery-operated candles instead. If you see a fire start, your first instinct might be to grab the fire extinguisher.
You want to make sure that you actually understand how to use that fire extinguisher, how practice using it in the backyard, know the pass technique and how to pull the pin, and how to use it, because the time that you don't want to learn is when you actually need it in the event of an emergency.
Calling 911 is always the best option. When it comes to furnaces and chimneys, get them inspected once a year before you start using them. Soot will build up in chimneys and ignite, causing large fires. Be sure to have a fireplace screen that's metal or heat-tempered glass to prevent flying embers from sparking a fire. When you're done burning wood for the night, collect the ashes inside a tightly covered metal container. Place the tin can at least 10 feet away from your house and any structures. Let it sit for at least 24 to 48 hours before disposing of the ashes in the trash. During a power outage, many use generators to keep warm. Always use the generator outside and as far away from your house, windows, and doors as possible. Otherwise, you're at risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas created when fuels burn incompletely. It's the invisible killer. If you have any fuels like gas, wood, natural gas, or propane in your home, you need to have a carbon monoxide detector in a centralized location on every level of your home. Test these alarms monthly, just like your smoke detectors. Smoke detectors need to be placed in every room of the house and interconnected. The whole unit has about a 10-year lifespan before needing to be replaced. If your smoke alarm goes off, you have 2 minutes to safely get out of your house.
Smoke is fire, and smoke will hurt you or cause damage to you as far as even physically and mentally.
When you need to evacuate for a fire, get out immediately and enact your fire plan.
There's always a main egress point and then have a backup egress. That's what we've discussed. Knowing the layout of your home at night sometimes, which you should do, you should have. Some people are heavy sleepers, so have a plan of waking everyone up if they're not awake.
Once at your meeting point, call 911 and let them know if anyone's unaccounted for. Keep these tips in mind to reduce the risk of a home fire and safely stay warm this season. Meteorologist Christy Stewart, 10 on your side.
The snow came early this year. We saw our first flakes back in November, and since then we've had a few more snow events. Now, snow early in the season doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get a lot of snow in the winter, but it does remind us that we need to look at that long-range pattern. Where we start is to figure out if we are in a La Nina or El Nino pattern. This is related to the climate patterns of the tropical Pacific Ocean. This winter, the phase indicates we are going to be in a cool or La Nina phase. For us, that usually brings mild weather with temperatures warmer than normal. But we can still get snow. We can look back at previous La Ninas and see how much snow we've had. In 2020 and 2021, we got between 3 and 14 inches of snow. In 2010, we almost got 2 feet of snow. But some La Ninas do not produce snow. In 2007, we got less than an inch for that entire winter. Since the 1940s, we have had several winters where our grand total was more than 12 inches for the entire season. Now, this doesn't mean that the following winter will be snowy. In fact, the average total in a winter after a very snowy winter is 6.2 inches, which is exactly the same as our 30-year average for Norfolk. So my thoughts on the rest of this winter. I believe we'll still see a few more chances for snow in the weeks and months ahead, but with it being a La Nina pattern, it will be difficult for that cold air to persist, but I would count on a few more chances for snow this winter. And remember, you can count on the Super Doppler 10 weather team day and night for the latest forecast. Weather updates are always available on WAVY.com. And the WAVY weather app is in the palm of your hand anytime with the latest forecast, as well as road conditions wherever you go this winter. For all of us on the Super Doppler 10 weather team, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jeff Edmondson. Thanks for watching and stay safe this winter.